RFD TV presents Gentle Giant with Pam and Kadee Kaufman.
One of the most recognized brand representatives in the world are the Clydesdales of Anheuser-Busch. It's a sure bet that you've seen one of the award-winning commercials featuring these gentle giants. But today we'll give you an inside look at the Clydesdales on the road.
Well, that's right, Pam. The Clydesdales came through the Fort Worth Stockyards with 3 huge semis, 10 Clydesdales, 7 handlers, and 1 dog named Brady.
Yeah, you see it a lot, and what happens a lot of times too is that little kids will come in and see them, and it's interesting to talk to people who've seen the horses 30, 40 years ago, and now they come up and they said, wow, I remember them, they were bigger. Well, the kids are looking at their knees right when they're seeing them, and now they're growing up a little bit. But I think what happens is just the sheer size. They're 2,000 pounds walking around, they're 6 feet 4 at the shoulders, and they see that size, and then they'll see them come up and they'll put their head down for a kid to pet them. And I think they just, to be that big and that gentle is the big attraction, I think, for most people.
Stay with us, folks. Gentle Giants will be right back after this.
Welcome back to Gentle Giants. Let's take a look at the Budweiser Clydesdales as they've rolled into Fort Worth, Texas.
Well, we travel with a 7-member crew. We have 10 horses, 1 Dalmatian, 3 semis, and a passenger van. 1 semi will hold 4 head of horses and our portable stalls in case we have to set up in a tent or building that doesn't have stalls. 1 truck will haul 6 head of horses. 1 truck hauls the wagon, the harness, the show boxes, and then we have supplies in all 3 of the trucks for however long we're going to be out.
There are 8 horses on each team, but 10 horses travel to provide alternates for the hitch as needed. Professional handlers accompany each team. Often, one handler has night duty to provide round-the-clock care for the horses. Transportation for each hitch requires 3 50-foot semis. 2 carry the horses. The 3rd transports a red, white, and gold beer wagon and other equipment. The horse's comfort is enhanced with air-cushioned suspension and thick rubber flooring, and cameras in the trailers enable the drivers to watch the horses during transport. The team stops each night at local stables, where feed and bedding awaits.
We have a little over 250 bags of shavings, because with these big guys, you'll put 6 to 8 bags down to start with, and then add several a day. We're feeding almost 3,000 pounds of hay a week for us. So that was all sitting here waiting for us, and we travel with when the guys, the horses, travel down the road. We have big long hay troughs that we hang in front of them. So they have hay in front of them, the whole time they're on the trucks. The trucks are air ride, rubber floors. The stalls are designed specifically so they can sit back on them, take the weight off, and then every set of horses, the horses are hauled side by side. Each set of horses has a TV monitor camera there, and then in the cab we can sit there and switch back and forth so we can watch each pair of horses in the truck when we have sound, so we can hear if anything's going on back there. But they get in there and they've traveled so much, they sit back on that bar and they throw their head down in that hay bag and they're pretty happy.
Obedience-trained Dalmatian dogs also travel with each hitch, a Budweiser tradition since the 1950s. When the team performs, the Dalmatians sit on a wagon seated next to the driver.
Brady is our Dalmatian who rides with us, and they've been a mascot with us since the 1950s. Dalmatians typically were a coaching dog. They were originally bred that they were shorter than 22 inches at their back so they could run underneath the wagon. And they're known for their stamina for running, and everybody considers them the fire dog. The reason was when they were pulling the steamer with the horses, Dalmatians get very protective, and they'll get very protective of the horses. So while the firemen were out fighting the fire, the Dalmatian would run off stray dogs and people from around the steamer so no one would spook the horses. And with them black and white like that, they're easier to see at night too. So that's why they became a favorite of the coaching industry. Brady is named after one of our famous drivers, a man named Walt Brady who drove the hitch for a little over 30 years. And Brady, you're seeing him at about as hard as he's going to work today. 7 guys that are right with us right now have done it for up to 25 years. Some are in their 3rd month with us. So it's just like the horses, young horses, old horses, young new crew and old crew, and a nice mix of each. And so everybody knows their job, and we can go pretty quick. It's pretty vital that they have the general horse knowledge, and then with a lot of us, we only grew up with the draft horses, but we can also bring them along and train them, because there's quite a difference for the light horse people coming in for the drafts. Myself, I've only worked with the drafts, so I don't have that knowledge of some of the light horse ability. But with the drafts, they just got to learn that they're going to be a little more calmer than your Arabian horse or lighter horse, but they also they're so big and massive. You just got to teach them to work a little differently, just so you don't get stepped on or bumped. They're just 2,000 pounds moving around. It will move you.
Roman Raber grew up in an Amish community.
We had Belgians growing up. They're very similar to the Clydesdale. The Belgian doesn't have the white feather as the Clydesdale does. Other than that, they're very similar. Well, it was a great way of growing up. It taught me a lot of responsibility, how to take care of animals. So it taught me a lot, growing up, and also, I was driving horses when I was old enough to hold lines, so that's how I learned to drive, and I still continue to love working with these guys. We have a farrier that comes out every 6 weeks and shoes the horses. Occasionally we have to tack one on, or like I did this morning, he pulled one halfway off, so we'll tack it back on, and that's what I grew up doing, shoeing horses at home. So there's a few of us that can do it, if we need to do it.
The Budweiser Clydesdales were first introduced to the public in 1933 to celebrate the repeal of Prohibition. August Bush Jr. presented the hitch as a gift to his father, August Anheuser-Busch Sr., who was guided outside the brewery with the ruse of being told his son had purchased him a new car. But instead, he was greeted by the horses, pulling a red, white, and gold beer wagon. The hitch proceeded to carry the first case of post-Prohibition beer from the St. Louis brewery.
Gussie Bush and his father, Adolphus, they really liked the horses from the delivery standpoint. They always had competitions, and our stable in St. Louis is a National Historic Landmark from the turn of the century when they delivered with horses. When they repealed Prohibition, August Bush Jr. snuck out and bought a hitch of Clydesdales and presented it to his dad, telling him that he bought a new car to come and see it. The father wasn't all that pleased with the buying a new car. He come out into the street and seen the hitch of horses, was just overwhelmed.
Recognizing the advertising and promotional potential of a horse-drawn beer wagon, Bush Sr. had the team sent by rail to New York City, where he presented beer to the governor of New York, and then made a journey that included the delivery of a case of beer to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt at the White House.
It was such a big, popular hit with the general public that they kept doing it, and here in 2012 we're still running strong.
Don't go away. We'll have more on Gentle Giants right here on RFD TV. Gentle. I said gentle. Gentle.
Well, the shoe's still on, so that's good.
Welcome back to Gentle Giants. There's more than just getting all these horses bathed to get the hitch ready. We're talking polishing more than $250,000 in harnesses.
If you look, this is actually the britchin. So this is the heaviest set of harness. This goes on the wheel team all the way back at the wagon. So this is what backs the wagon up. It goes through a series of straps and everything and pulls the wagon backwards with the back of their butt. And then this set, it'll weigh about 135 pounds or so. And then when you go to the lead set, they don't have this. Like here would be the body. This is the next team up. So this set has a spider, which is right here. And this is the back strap, comes through the back of the collar, through the crooper, and then these just hold the tugs up. This has no backing ability at all. So this is much lighter than that Britchin, of course. So this set would weigh about 120, 125 pounds, and it's a smaller collar. Typically, they go down largest to smallest as you go forward. So these collars are about 75, 80 pounds, and our lead collar is about 70 to 75 pounds. And it's much thinner as well. If you see the difference between these two tugs, this one is a swing, so it's a little bit smaller, but it's just thinner. And if you come to a wheel set, the tug itself is just, you can really see the difference. It's a much heavier tug. So that's why these sets are so much heavier.
The harnesses that we have are now being made out of Ohio. It's a six-figure number for a complete set of 8. It's all patent leather. They use an English cured leather. It's a little better curing process, and then solid brass. The collars are fitted in different measurement sizes to go on the position of where the horse is. So basically the harness stays in the exact location and horses can switch around. Each horse has his own custom fitted bridle, and then the harness is adjustable.
So this is it's a lead collar. This is one of our smaller ones. It weighs about 70, 75 pounds. And this is after a show about a week ago. So we get tarnished on the brass, with a lot of saliva and things from them throwing their heads. So every show we'll have to go through and repolish and clean all these. We'll clean it right after the show and then polish it the next day. So as we polish it over here, we just got this. It's halfway through. It's covered with all Brasso on the brass. And we use Kiwi shoe polish for all the leather, and then Meguiar's for the patent. You go through that, and then once you're done taking everything off, there's the finished product. Sometimes you can get away with about an hour a set, but if we're tearing it down and reconditioning it, which we do about twice a year, we'll spend a full day on each set to tear it down and clean it, and then a full day the next day to put it back together. We'll take all these eagles and pick everything out of it and get them absolutely spotless as the day it was new. We do that about twice a year, and it takes us, the entire crew will get on that. So we'll have about 6 to 7 guys, and we'll be working for an entire week to get all 8 sets back to normal.
The wagons are Studebaker wagons, modified to carry beer, originally manufactured circa 1900. What determines the placement of each horse? The physical ability of each horse determines its position in the hitch. Wheel horses, the pair closest to the wagon, must be large and strong enough to start the wagon's movement and to use their weight to help slow or stop the vehicle.
The way the wagon is set up, the biggest horses in the back are the only 2 that actually steer or back the wagon. They'll all help pull the wagon, but they're one of the big ones you want back there. And the horses, the little smaller they are, usually the more agile. And in some of our docking procedures, we might turn the wagon and bring the horses around 180 degrees and then have the wagon docked at a 90 to the horses. Those back big horses are only going to cover about 35, 40 feet, and the front horses will cover about 180 feet as they're swinging. So you need a smaller, more agile horse to do that particular maneuver. So you graduate them out, biggest to smallest.
One of the most impressive displays of the hitch is the reenactment of the docking procedure. As goods were delivered in the days of horse and wagon when streets were very narrow, the driver maneuvered the lines of the 8 horses, backing the wagon to his delivery point, then moving the horses completely parallel to the curb to let other vehicles pass. A skilled driver can move them perfectly in both directions. A regular chore of the team on the road is keeping these 1-ton beauties clean.
We'll give them a complete bath, shampoo once a week usually, and then they'll get their legs washed. And we have mane and tail plus Castile cocoa butter soap in there to help condition the hair. And the legs get washed every day we use them, and then they'll get rinsed depending on how sweaty they get, but we use the on-demand water heater. And that way we can also bring the heat way up on our water bucket that we're going to wash legs with and help helps get the white a lot whiter.
Well, after a gallon of shampoo, lead horse Mike, he's been washed and we're off to blow dry. Gentle Giants on RFD TV will be right back after this.
Welcome back to Gentle Giants. Did you know there's more than 200 Clydesdales in the Anheuser-Busch herd? Here's Doug Bushlow with more on our story.
Right now, our horse herd count is a little over 200. We have 3 of the teams that travel. They all have extra horses. Like I have 15 head of horses, so I can rotate out. We carry 10 on the road. The other ones are back in St. Louis. Our breeding facility is in Boonville, Missouri. It's a state-of-the-art. It's only 5 years old. And there's 40 mares there, roughly a half dozen stallions. At any given time, there'll be almost 100 head of horses running there with the babies. And then once the babies get a little older, be it 2 years old, then they'll head into Grant's farm where they'll start working so they can come out and maybe join one of our teams.
They're housed in a historic brick and stained glass stable built in 1885 in St. Louis, Missouri.
The Clydesdales originated in Scotland. All the drafts came from the Great Flemish Stallion from Flanders, and where they got sent to is how some of the different breeds came around. A valley in Scotland is known as a dale, and it was along the River Clyde in Lanarkshire County where they came, so they became the Clydesdale horse. Originally bred for knights in armor, and then when the chariots came along, it was more efficient to use those, so then they went to be plow horses and work horses.
Budweiser Clydesdales are known for selecting horses that look as identical as possible with their rich bay color, white feather, and wide blaze. They may look alike, but their personalities are different.
Every one of them is a little different. We have the ones that are high-strung. We have the beach bum ones. We have the ones that like to stay we got 1 or 2 that kind of like to be by themselves. We got 1 or 2 that can't stand to be away from another horse, so they just got to see one in their sight or they get nervous. And everyone has their own little personality quirk or trait that you learn to recognize. The horse behind us, Jackson's a 5-year-old. He's more of the beach bum personality. We're going to be bringing in another horse who's our tallest horse, and he's one who's the overachiever. He's all heart. He will try and pull the wagon by himself. He'll give you everything he's got. He's easy to work with, and so he's a really nice horse to work around. You could use a lot like that.
Well, each personality is a little bit different. Surprisingly, you look at them, you think they're all about the same, but they're actually not. They're very, very different. Like Jackson, he's a little bit younger, so he's a little bit more playful, versus maybe an older horse that just wants to be left alone, just wants to eat, doesn't want any attention, you know. So they're all a little bit different. People don't realize how big they are until they actually see them in person, and then, you know, working with them every day, they're so gentle. You really get attached to them.
One thing that the Budweiser Clydesdales have been known for are the award-winning commercials that take a special trainer and some unique horses. Assorted Clydesdales are also used as animal actors in television commercials for Budweiser, particularly in Super Bowl ads.
We have a trainer who comes in and trains our horses for us for specialty acts, whether they're rearing. We have one that'll cross his legs. We had the jumping horses. We had, when they were colts, he actually trained the 5 colts to roll a basketball and then to paw at it to throw it, and that was a snowball commercial. When you see them rolling, it was actually a basketball that they were rolling and then they'd paw at it. He trains them all for specific parts in the commercial. We try not to use those commercial horses back on the hitch, because once in a while they remember what they were trained to do, and that's not always a good thing to have when you have 8 of them hooked up and wanting to go down the street.
For over 90 years, the Clydesdales have been performing for crowds across North America.
I've been doing it for quite a while, so I've done 3 inaugurations, been to 9 Super Bowls. We've been on baseball fields for opening day, NASCAR. You know, one of the appearances we were lucky enough, we stabled our horses with Dale Earnhardt Sr. at his place and had him coming out to help us do chores every morning. You know, so you meet some interesting people. You name it, we've been to it. I mean, we've been to Olympics, we've been to ski races, boat races. If there's people there and we can make an appearance, we've probably done it.
A lot of rodeos are fun. Red Bluff, California, Redding, California. Where else have we been? Mule Days is fun. Sheridan's a pretty good rodeo. Those are the fun ones. There's a few events, like we do the Blue Angels Home Open Air in, where's that, El Centro, California. And that's a pretty good time. It's another great American icon of the U.S. Navy, so we like to support our troops as much as possible. And that's a good show to go to. So, and then we've been to a lot of World Series, a lot of Super Bowls, a lot of parking lots. I mean, face it, we don't get to go inside, but it's a pretty good experience going to highlights like that for sporting events as well.
I think it's cool how, you know, the company's been doing this so long, and you know, you're carrying on that heritage. You know, it's really cool. People really enjoy it when we come into town. As here, you know, people come stop by and see them, and you just never. People tell us how beautiful they are. You never hear that enough.
We hope you enjoyed this inside look at the Budweiser Clydesdales as much as we did. We'd like to thank Doug, Will, Jim, Roman, and all the guys.
And don't forget about Brady.
Brady the dog as well. Maybe they'll be in a town near you soon. And we hope to see you right back here on RFD TV next time for another episode of Gentle Giants.